everyone, welcome to the May 2017 comic book pool party. I am Captain Logan, and here he is once again, the Sid Part 2.
Greetings, folks. Someone asked me to do that on my live show, so there you go.
That's the way. See, it's always nice to fulfill requests. Yeah. So everybody, get your party hats on. Get your party favors out. Get ready for another exciting pool party. We're going to do something a little bit different at the beginning of the show this time. Usually we start right away with the runners-up for the month, with the birthday card, as it were. And last month we had Free Comic Book Day. And in a perfect world, I would have done an extra show for Free Comic Book Day, but I was out of town and wasn't able to get Free Comic Book Day books. Since then, Ian, I have a stack like this tall of Free Comic Day books because Vince went to like 2 or 3 stores that day and got everything and brought them to my house and gave them to me.
Oh,
so
awesome.
I have nearly everything that was released for all the obscure companies, everything, and I haven't read very many of them, but I read a few things, and I thought we should start the show by talking about just one Free Comic Day book, whatever we thought was the coolest book, or just of the stuff we read, because like I said, I got a big stack, I haven't read them all yet. So we will begin with Ian's favorite Free Comic Book Day book, and then we'll jump right into the card. Go ahead, man.
Okay, and of course, on that point, my phone decides, hey, let's ring. Sorry about that.
So Ian has just suddenly decided what the music is going to be for this segment. He's like, he started the segment with a brand new transition. That wasn't planned. That was amazing.
Professionalism here on Geekvolution. So my Free Comic Book Day, I actually had 2 things I wanted to talk about. One, just because it was fun. But my pick for Free Comic Book Day was this Doctor Who comic. I should say I had not been enjoying the Doctor Who books from Titan very much. They were just getting really hard to follow, but I decided to pick this up anyway, even though I dropped the 10th Doctor book. And this was a story that told a story with all 4 doctors, that involved all 4 doctors, but never had them meet at the same time and really utilized the whole time travel thing. So I really enjoyed that about it. I thought it was a fun, clever thing that, like, you can't quite do in the show because, you know, Christopher Eccleston's never coming back. It takes money to get some of these people back. Some guys are too old to do it now. Now, I will say my major complaint about this, though, is that it feels the need to change the artist every time they change doctors. And the guy that's doing Capaldi looks, you know, fantastic. The art for the 12th Doctor is amazing. But then the 9th Doctor is just hilariously bad.
Look how under-detailed that is. There's like nothing in the background.
Yeah, and like it's this really big slap in the face because you have like an art transition where they have the 12th Doctor still drawn by the old artist, and like his face kind of like transitions into the scene with the 9th Doctor, and just like look at the 9th Doctor's head. He looks like he's wearing a football helmet under his skull.
Yeah, like, he's got a receding hairline, but it's not that far back.
Oh, and it's just misshapen, and it just looks weird. The eyes aren't proportional.
I don't want to make fun of that guy too much, but I don't know how... I don't know how the editor gets those pages and doesn't send a note back and is like, "Are you done? Is that it?
Yeah.
Is that all you got?"
It's a consistent problem that they do not know how to draw Christopher Eccleston's head because all the panels of it are pretty bad. But they transition artists, but like it was just a really neat idea for a story with like the Doctor taking his companions to see the most unique race in the universe, because it all starts from one guy who had survived, who was the like kind of, you know, last son of Krypton thing, last survivor of his race just on this barren planet. And so he creates clones of himself that are slightly varied and then allows them to go forth into the world and populate it. And like the Doctor has to keep revisiting the planet over the years, and like at first they're too nice because they all know that they're the clone of the same guy, so their society is just stagnating. So he has to like make them forget that, but then they become like too barbaric and just, you know, war torn, and so then he has to help them remember, and it's just this whole back and forth of trying to balance out this race with all the different Doctors. And that's really cool. It's a really fun idea of how to cross them over. And it's unique to something you could only do in the comics, and I like that about it. I wish that the storytelling level was up to that in the main book, but unfortunately it is not. So
Well, nice that
What
you got
can
a
you do?
good, solid, complete story in a Free Comic Book Day issue like that.
Yeah, that was the thing that I loved about it, because all my other books, there was like I think one or two that did that otherwise, and this one was definitely the best. The other thing I wanted
Most
to talk
of the
about,
time, it's either just previews or it's like 6 or 8 pages of new and then nothing but previews.
yeah. So then, like on that note, I actually did pick up a preview of Dragon Ball Super. I'm not a manga fan, so this took a lot of adjusting to. But what you need to know about me, Cap, is I am incorrigible. It does not take much for people to convince me to do stuff. So
I discovered that about you with Star Trek. You've now watched like most, if not all, of Star Trek.
All of Star Trek except for Beyond, literally.
I didn't think I'd. Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you haven't seen Beyond yet?
No, still haven't.
Oh, okay.
So, like, I was complaining about the fact that manga is never colored, and there's, like, a whole host of reasons for that, but I was complaining about that during my live show on Free Comic Book Day, and then I just decided, you know what would be a good idea? If I colored a panel. So I colored in a manga, and I'm sure this upsets people, but I had fun doing it. So the secret I revealed on Free Comic Book Day is that manga are secretly coloring books. So there.
Yeah, the thing about black and white is if it is clearly intentionally supposed to be black and white in such a way where you don't think to pull out colored pencils, black and white can be wonderful. It's just like it can be with film and anything. I'm really excited about the Blu-ray release for Logan because we got a black and white noir version of that, and I think that's so cool.
Yeah, I heard about that.
But with something like that, I'm with you. Like. You could do colored versions, and so it's really hard not to want to see it colored. And
to be fair, they have started releasing Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, or
not
just all of Dragon Ball in color. Color. It's just like there's like a whole host of reasons behind it and everything. But I mean, look at that cover. It just looks better in color. It just does. I guess we're just spoiled because we read American comics, you know?
No, that's exactly right. And you know, a lot of underground comics, even still are black and white. And going back to the '80s, most of them were, you know, like I said, underground stuff, things that were indie and not the big two. And very often that was just cost cutting. It wasn't necessarily because you know, you look at something like The Tick with Ben Edlund. It wasn't because he didn't want it colored. It was because it was cheaper to produce that way. When you create a character where the color is so important, he's blue and it matters, and we talk about it. And then inside it's black and white. That feels weird. So I'm using that to segue to my pick, which somewhat predictably was The Tick. This is something we do every year with The Tick, and even when we don't have an ongoing Tick book or any Tick book going on at New England Comics, they always do a Free Comic Day book. We are finally about to get a regular book again, and I think which is not surprising since the series got picked up from Amazon. I don't know if it's monthly or if it's bi-monthly again, or excuse me, semi-monthly. No, bi-monthly. I was right the first time. But it's Cullen Bunn, which I think is somewhat of a strange choice, writing-wise. But we'll see how everywhere. We'll see how he does. He's everywhere. He's pretty versatile. But his comic sensibilities are really good for Deadpool in a way I'm not sure they will be for The Tick. So, but I'm keeping an open mind. But that is not the first person I would go to. But he's a good writer. We'll see how he does. Anyway, so this is 2 stories, usually the Free Comic Day issues, and really a lot of one-shots with The Tick. You get 2 or 3 stories. And this begins with the Tick's birthday party. The Tick is also having a birthday party, Ian, just like we are each month with comic books. And as you might expect, The Tick, like with so many things in his own personal life, has no idea when his birthday is, and has a conversation with Arthur about birthdays and is confused by them because adults seem to stop celebrating them at some point. So he thinks people don't have birthdays after their children. And then Arthur makes the mistake of saying, no, you can still have birthday parties when you're an adult. So The Tick wants to know if he can have a birthday party since he doesn't know when his birthday is. And he has a hard time coming up with who he wants to put on his list for invites. And Arthur's like, well, you know people. We like hang out with superheroes. Why don't you invite people you know? But he doesn't say that. He makes the mistake of saying, why don't you invite people you've had fun with before? So he invites the Terror and other supervillains so he can fight them at his birthday party. And then the second story in this is a supervillain versus superhero presidential election. The Red Scare runs for president, and then you have two nominees that are clearly and predictably stand-ins for who you had last year with Trump and Hillary, and neither of them will let the Red Scare ever get a word in edgewise. And it's kind of funny. It's sort of exactly what you would expect, and the jokes are kind of obvious. So it's the lesser of the two, but it was still fun. So anyway, I always look forward to these, and this is the best one I've read in a few years. So that was pretty great.
Nice.
We move on now to our birthday card. We're going to actually start the show now, and Ian is going to tell us what was a book he loved from last month that he didn't actually end up putting in for one of his gifts in a week. Go ahead, sir.
Oddly, this was from just last week. I was just kind of iffy on this book. Last week was not a very strong week for me. But I did like this, and this was the Wonder Woman annual. I liked the opening story in it quite a bit, where it's Batman and Superman's first interaction with Wonder Woman. This is actually set in Greg Rucka's run after she is revealed to the world. My favorite thing still about Greg Rucka's run is Wonder Woman's revealed to the world, and they do the thing where they show all the newspapers saying the superhero name, and like really prominently, there's a German newspaper that says Wunderfrau, and I just want to, every time I see that, I just want to sing Wunderfrau, Wunderfrau, fighting for her rights. But anyway, so it's like Batman and Superman's first interaction as they try to figure out what's going on with Wonder Woman and who she is.
She's just spinning around with a bratwurst.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just them interacting for the first time. And there's this really cool scene where she has them hold the lasso of truth because they're worried about her. So she just hands out the lasso and is like, you can see it in my heart. Is there anything that should worry you? And they both just say no. But like Batman, of course, takes a minute. And the other funny moment that like people are like really questioning, and like Greg Rucka has even tweeted about this, is Wonder Woman asks them their names. Superman says Clark or Kal-El, and Batman says Batman. That's really good. Like people are like, oh, so the lasso didn't work on him. Like, no, it did. So
that's great.
Yep. It's just a fun short.
I thought about picking that up. I wish I had. I opened that up in the store and look and thumbed through it. And I thought the art looked great.
Oh yeah, definitely. And like, so the first story is just a fun, quick little thing. And I honestly wish this had been the whole annual, because the other stuff isn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, she plays fetch with a kaiju. That's pretty cool. But it's nowhere near as fun as that first story. So I don't know. It's just, this could have easily broken my list, but just for as short as that first story is, it's getting the card status for me.
I may have to buy that. That looked like a lot of fun.
Oh, definitely. It's got some smiles. The funny thing about it, and I got the other book sitting right here, so let me just show you this because this cracked me up. There it is. Okay, so here's the cover of the Wonder Woman annual. And here's the cover of the Trinity annual.
I noticed that. Yeah.
That just made me laugh. It's like,
in fact, knowing the Trinity annual came out this week, I had a brief second as you were showing us the Wonder Woman book where I was like, is that Trinity? No, that is Wonder. He said Wonder Woman.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt. I was like, wait, so there's a Trinity story in the Wonder Woman annual? Huh? But it worked. It was a fun little quick read. I enjoyed it for the most part.
You know, what's curious to me, and I might be overthinking this, but I don't think I am. What's curious to me about their meeting that way and Superman calling himself Kal-El is I don't think the now integrated Superman would necessarily do that, because I think he's much more Clark Kent first, but we have...
Well, he says Clark Kent first, or Kal-El.
That's true, but if that's their first meeting, my question is that before or after we changed the timeline? Because
we talked about this, and it doesn't make any sense.
Together,
it just doesn't make any sense, because it would technically have to be New 52 Superman. But the problem with that is New 52 Superman meets Wonder Woman in the first story of Justice League. So it doesn't make any sense in continuity. Just shut up and enjoy it for what it is my only conclusion.
That's where we're at this point. No, it's important. Yep. And what's really funny is we're now forcing in a lot of books. Oh yeah, remember when Superman died a few years ago? You remember that?
Yep.
My card for last month is Ghostbusters 101  number 3. I haven't talked about this at all. This is a crossover, of course, with the new Ghostbusters and the original Ghostbusters, the Burnham Ghostbusters, which are sort of the movie Ghostbusters mixed with a lot of other iterations. Even though we also have the real Ghostbusters, it's very confusing. We do a lot of we do a lot of interdimensional stuff in this book so that we can have a lot of different versions meeting each other. And the thing that really is impressing me about this, and I'm picking. We had 2 issues last month because we have 5 weeks, and I'm picking this issue in particular. I think we had 2 last month. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Anyway, but I'm picking this one in particular because this is the issue where they finally meet. And you might think, well, this is only a 4 issue, or is it longer? I'm actually not sure how long this miniseries is, but 3 issues in, it takes us before we finally get the 2 teams together. And it doesn't feel like a slog because it feels like Burnham's Ghostbusters just continuing like it's a monthly. He always writes it that way. We'll take some time off. We'll come back. We'll do a miniseries. And we always kind of jump in wherever we were before, or just a little bit of time has passed. And there are so many characters in this book now and so many different Ghostbusters. And we have a lot of we have a lot of different like sets of Ghostbusters in different states and things that it whenever we check back in with it, it just feels like we never left. And so we had a lot of kind of ground to cover before we finally put them together. But the reason I picked this is because I'm really impressed with the way Burnham integrates the humor, because the kind of drier sensibilities of the original Ghostbusters, I would not think would mesh necessarily with the kind of more cartoony wackiness of new Ghostbusters. And boy, does he figure that out. It's fantastic. And I think and I'm not a big fan of that movie. There are things I like about it, but I think he found a way to make it funnier by mixing them and by getting the drier Ghostbusters sense of humor in there. There is a panel in this that is that I think is the funniest thing I've read in a long time, and I laughed out loud and then took a picture of it and sent it to people. He has this part where the new Ghostbusters come through a portal into the firehouse in our dimension, in the Burnham dimension, and one of them says, "So what is this, ghost hell? Are we in ghost hell?" And then what's her face? I'm trying to remember because I don't know these characters real well. Oh yeah, Holtzman, that's right, and Holtzman's my favorite. She says, so Abby's like, "Are we in ghost hell?" And Holtzman says, "Wouldn't that just be hell?" I just think that's really funny. Anyway, and there's a surprisingly really kind of cool recap of the movie, which you wouldn't think you would need, but going back to it after all of the things that have happened and making it the impetus for how the dimensions are crossing. The reason the dimensions are crossing has to do with Gozer, and they bring up the after credit scene from the new movie where it's like, well, we've heard of that, we don't know what that is, and there's this big mystery as to how in the world Gozer could possibly come back, because there aren't many Gozers. There's only one, and it is an interdimensional being apparently. So and they've already dispatched of it. So there's kind of a big mystery as to how in the world that could come back, because it's apparently going to. And anyway, I was surprisingly impressed with that. And this is not a thing I needed, and I really like it. So it's pretty cool.
Nice.
We move on now to our gifts. We have 5 gifts each for last month. It's another 5-week month, and we begin on May the 3rd. And what was your gift from May the 3rd, sir?
I always try to make sure I walk around the stands and see what's on the shelves that isn't on my pull list, just to see if anything eluded me. And this was one of those books I grabbed and added it to my pull. It's called Predator Hunters. I'm a pretty big Predator fan, as it turns out.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either. It just happened all of a sudden. At some point, I became a Predator fan.
I just happen to have this sitting here on my desk. I've been reading a little bit of that.
Cool, neat. I haven't read much of the Predator comics. I've yet to find a run that like I could get really into. But this one's got some stuff in it that I'm kind of excited about, because the subtitle is Hunters, which would just seem redundant, of course. But
right.
The whole point of this is, okay, so we've all seen Predator 2, where Danny Glover kills the Predator and he gets like the 17th century pistol, right? So the predators have that honor code where if you kill one of them, then they let you live, and then the other predators will let you live and respect you, and yada yada. So this kind of goes maybe a little too far overboard, but at the same time, I'm kind of fascinated by the implications where people who have succeeded in defeating predators one-on-one in the past are now gathering together to go seek them out and hunt them. And that's the premise of this first issue, is just getting the team together. And you find out like the history of each of the team members and how they got there and all that stuff. And just, whoo, it's kind of chilling. It's kind of cool. There's one panel in particular that I thought was just really awesome, where this woman talks about how her family has been hunters for years. So they've encountered predators again and again and again, because predators seek out the alpha predator, which is, a hunter. And so you see her like family den with all the trophies on the wall, and there's a predator head taxidermied. And that's just really chilling and really cool and neat to see. And I don't know. And then they just kind of like drive off in the sunset as this team that's determined to go hunt predators together. And that's a really good premise. That's a really strong premise to, turn it on its head. And I'm really excited to keep reading it. That's a really good one. The only other Predator book that I'm reading right now that's not coming out consistently is Judge Dredd versus Predator versus Aliens. And that's just bizarre as could be. So I don't know. This is something I'm pretty excited for. The art is pretty dead on, pretty good. Really highly detailed. Got a lot of horror influence. They're writing the Predator really well, where like they, a guy dies in the like just first couple of pages of a prologue here, and his last words are, "Please God help me." And as they run away, you just keep hearing the Predator say, "Please God help me, please God help me," to try to lure them back. And that's just a very Predator thing to do, where it's like, it's not even necessarily a trap anymore. It's just psychological intimidation and stuff. So I really like that. The Predators are total dude bros that are just mean.
Yeah, that is the spookiest thing about them, is when they just start repeating things. And sometimes in Predator things, I recently went back and reread the Batman Predator crossover, and they'll keep things in their system from like the last story and be saying them again, and it will be like thematically relevant, but also really super spooky. And sometimes you wonder if they're just trying to understand what it means, or if they think they're communicating, or if they're just trying to freak you out. You don't even always know why they're doing it.
Oh no, they understand human language. This is something I talk about often because of just how like crazy I think it is. So there's a video game that came out in like 2005 called Predator Concrete Jungle, and it is like, for a 2005 video game, it's got a pretty solid story. And you know why? It was written by Grant Morrison. Grant Morrison wrote a video game about the Predator. It's still got like some of the tropes of like, oh, you have to do this kind of thing built into the story, but it gets like really deep and really in there. And it's got like all these like different mixed metaphors and like deep levels to it about, fatherhood and all this stuff. And it gets really dark at one point, and the Predator, as just like a total middle finger to the game's main villain, like stabs her and then quotes her husband back to her from like 60 years ago saying, "I promised you a night to remember, babe." And it's just dark.
Yeah, wow.
I highly recommend Predator Concrete Jungle to anyone that has the time to go buy a PS2 again, because you probably don't still have one, and play through a Predator game.
Thank you for suggesting that, for recommending that book, because I didn't know that was out, and that sounds like a really good, solid first chapter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really excited to see where it goes. It's a really interesting idea, and it's playing with the title too. And I'm always a big fan of things that actually consider their title, because again, Predator Hunters, that's a redundant title, but it's literally a play on words, because these are people hunting predators, so they're predator hunters. I like stuff that's
yeah. I feel like the
that.
title would almost make more sense unless there's even a triple entendre going on later on or something. But I feel like that title would almost make more sense if they were both in the same font size, because it's not Predator Hunters, it's Predator Hunters. So almost
yeah, and but that's the thing is it's got that other layer to it, because it's Predator as in like the name of the franchise, like you put Batman in front of something, and then it's like the story name is Hunters, but because of the way we read it, it has that extra level to it, which is just neat. I like things that actively consider their titles and don't just call it Thing, except for something about the Thing, I suppose.
yeah. I feel like The Thing needed to be titled The Thing. I think that made sense.
There was a webcomic that I read years ago, and it cracked me up because this guy was like, I always leave really vague notes for myself. Go pick up the thing from the airport. I don't even know what thing I was supposed to get. And then it just like shows a panel of the thing. He's like, guess I'm walking. And that was really funny.
That's why it then said, take him to Yancey Street. Okay. Moving right along, my gift for the first week of May is Spider-Gwen number 19. I feel the need usually to put a book above the rest if I dropped it and then read the latest issue and then put it back on my pull list again. This is not the first time this has happened, but I was getting a little bit bored with this book, and it seemed like interlude after interlude, and we set up. Lo and I were talking about this. We were both really irritated about this last year, where we set up this really interesting dynamic with Spider-Gwen and Matt Murdock, who is the Kingpin in her universe in Earth 65, and she was basically going to have to get in bed with him, and then not literally, they were going to be partners on something, and then the next issue, there was, I know, it sounds really interesting and juicy, but that's not where we went. But
you should be writing this book, Cap.
Sorry. Then the very next issue was a Thanksgiving interlude, and then the issue after that was a Christmas interlude, and we had this big, fascinating, really exciting kind of cliffhanger, and then it took forever before we came back to it, and all the mythology stuff that we haven't been dealing with in a long time, and her history and consequences to actions that she made issues and issues ago. It all comes back here. All roads have been leading here. We're finally dealing with the aftermath, more anyway, of what happened with Peter Parker, who is now the Lizard, and has gone, or rather, no, I'm sorry, we killed Peter Parker. It is hard to keep up with this because it's been so long since anything has happened in it. But we're dealing with Harry Osborn, who, if memory serves and I'm right about this, is the Lizard, and apparently has gone too far to the point where he can't be turned back, except there is one scientist that is building on the work from the Lizard before, that has an idea and thinks he can turn it back, but it requires it requires Gwen to basically become Venom. Oh. And I'm so excited about this idea. This is how we're introducing Venom, and it basically, if she agrees, it like because of her DNA being changed by the spider bite, if she merges with like she's not susceptible to the same problems that other people would be if they were merged with Venom. Apparently it would kill anybody else, and she can actually merge with it and have a symbiotic relationship with it, and basically science something. If that happens, then Harry Osborn doesn't have to be the Lizard anymore, and she is gonna have to agree to it because it's actually kind of a foolproof plan, and it kind of erases a mistake she made, but it means that she's still involved with the Kingpin, and he's kind of basically running her and controlling her right now. And it's a pretty good manipulation plot. I like the intrigue of his of the Kingpin, manipulating things behind the scenes and all the kind of street politics and stuff. And like I said, finally things are happening again in this book. So that is the main reason that I put it that I put it here. And I guess I don't get to drop this book. I guess I have to keep buying it because now I'm hooked again, and that's it. That's exciting.
I always have that with comics. Like occasionally I'll be reading a book, I'm like, wow, this is like really boring. I don't know why I keep reading it. And then like something will happen. I'm like, yes, this is why it's great.
I keep doing that. I keep dropping it before I've read the next issue. I gotta quit doing that. And then like I read it and I was like, okay, I guess I better go check and make sure the new one hasn't come out yet so that it gets in my pull box. Ian, let's go on now to the second week of May. This is May the 10th, and I'm very excited to find out what your gift was for that week. Did you have a better week that week?
Much better. And it's crazy because I knew there was like a 90% chance I'd choose this book, and I still had a hard time really settling on it because I had such a good week. But I'm going to go with a book I talk about a lot, just in reference, which is Renato Jones, Season 2. It's got kind of a wacky title. The first season was called Renato Jones, The 1%. This season's called Renato Jones, Freelancer. And this is, I should warn everybody, a very, 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 very political book. And so strap in. We're going to get kind of into it, but I'm gonna try to be, polite and everything. Okay, so just putting all the politics of this book aside, there's this very strong theme in it of bias and agenda and what you mean to other people and how other people use you. The basic premise of this book was kind of best explained by Warren Ellis, who called it the Punisher for the Occupy generation. And it is very, very violent, very over the top, kind of perfectly does what I like, what comics are very unique in doing, is just using their medium to not be subtle at all and just be really in your face. So all of that's really interesting, but there is this consistent theme, and this is like one of the things I can talk about that's not super political on one side or the other, everyone can kind of accept, which is everybody has an agenda. Everyone has something that they want out of things. And no matter what you're watching, like news media or whatever, it has an agenda that it is trying in some way, shape, or form to pass along to you, to influence you. And so even in comic books, we get this, where we get certain things that try to influence you one way or another. This book does have an agenda, but Kerr Kyle Andrews, the author of it and more, makes a very clear point that it is entirely his agenda that he is pushing here, because right on the cover of the book and throughout it, it says created, written, drawn, colored, and owned by Kerr Kyle Andrews. He really hammers that point home, and that is something that is absolutely fascinating. And it bleeds through in another way in this book that I really, really like. Okay, Cap, this is a pretty good size, standard $4 comic
Whenever
book.
you say that, I'm expecting a pop quiz.
Yeah.
Okay, Cap.
Quiz. I mean, I do have a question for you. This is a pretty good, standard size 24-page comic book, I think. I didn't count it out. You usually get ads in those, right? To help pay for the printing costs and everything. And there are ads in it, but they're not for actual companies. Not a single page of this is not done by Kerr Kyle Andrews. He puts in fake ads that he made to help influence the points of his story thematically.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, and so, there's a lot of this stuff. So there's like this fake ad where you see this woman and she kind of looks like a lingerie model, and she's wearing like lingerie that's inspired by like 17th century kind of aristocracy clothing. And it says oligarchs, and it's got kind of a logo that looks like Gucci, coming soon to North America. So he's making a very clear point there, and it's about it's a ad, but it's a political statement in and of itself, which is just really fascinating. And then he mirrors that again at the very end, where you have the main villain of the book, and this is where again it's very political. It's not very subtle. You have the main villain of the book, who is a billionaire being sworn in as president, and right opposed to that on the opposite side is an ad of like a woman that kind of looks like a dominatrix or something that says autocracy coming soon, or autocracy you asked for it. And that's just an inherently fascinating political statement. But it's also just on a structural level, it's using the comic book as a comic book, embracing the fact that it has to advertise within itself. And that's really fascinating just on an art form level too. And one of the things I'm like, I don't feel like people give the book enough credit for, because it's like, okay, everyone like kind of loves it or whatever for, oh, well, it's got all this political context, and that's a really good part of it. But it also is just a fundamentally cannot be told in any other medium kind of story. And I really like that. Also, Cap, something you'll like, because this is Image, again, creator owned. They did Spawn month. And so you have Renato Jones drawn as Spawn.
Oh, that's really cool. If I was still collecting Spawn, I would have to buy that just because that's in there.
Yeah. Renato Jones.
Don't now, but that's cool.
Yeah, Renato Jones, his catchphrase is "choke on this" with a $sign, and so he's saying in this "spawn on this," and that's just cool. It actually, it's a variant cover, but it actually is a poster in the
neat.
in the book. So if you want to, you could take it and hang it.
Really creative with the form. That's really cool. I mean,
Yeah.
like you say it's embracing advertising. It sounds just listening to you talk about it. It sounds more like it's almost like criticizing the commercial nature of comics.
Yeah, it is, but like it's also embracing the fact that comics comics contain ads. It's not shying away from ads. It's using them, and I find that really fascinating in how he is
your
pushing
expectations, because when you first look at one of those, you might glance over it, like not even.
Oh, that's what happened to me the first time I read through the first season.
That's very clever. Like whatever the book's actually saying, I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it is. It's a really, really useful tool in what he's creating. And we were talking about it earlier. There's black and white used for a purpose. And there's just this chaotic opening scene of just action with like little splashes of color, but it's otherwise all in black and white. And then I can't show this page because nudity, but once we get through all that,
there's cheese.
Yeah. Once we get through all the action and the violence and the gore, there's a scene where, like the love of his life character is about to try to kiss him, and then we go to color. So Kara Kyle Andrews is doing a lot in this book on a lot of different levels. And also, there's a flashback in this, and he changes the coloring for the flashback. So structurally, he is playing with the way the comic book works. The flashback is colored with pointillism, the dot kind of coloring for comic books. So it has that idea of like old comics.
And then it gives you a throwback to that period.
Yeah, and so it's that really, really neat use of coloring and everything. Kara Kyle Andrews really, really is into just trying to show a comic book as a comic book, which is interesting because he's a guy that's done movies and television directing. And like people have said, oh, so you're going to like try to get a Renato Jones movie together or something. He's like, no, I want it to be a comic book. I wrote it as a comic book. That's what it's meant to be. It doesn't need to be converted into anything else. It's not inferior because it's only a comic. It's not a pitch for a television show. It's a comic. And that's really, really cool.
Yeah, and you're seeing more and more creators doing that and making that case, trying to, and I think some of that is combating this idea, because I love how much we are going to comics for adaptation right now, because there's a lot of wonderful things there to adapt if it's appropriate and adaptable. But I think that there's a little bit of pushback from creators who don't want comics to just be a proving ground for things to get optioned.
Yeah, like that's what happened with
that way. There are entire companies that just exist to make a comic book to use as a pitch. Comics, but it's primarily there just to pitch to movies, and I think things like that are happening because there's some pushback.
Yeah, and I really like that. I did a while ago. I did like a list of like who I want as writers and artists for other DC Earth One books that will probably never ever happen.
The Earth One line's getting canceled.
I didn't even know that. But like, I really want Tom King to do Green Lantern, and I would love Kara Kyle Andrews.
Okay, Eric told me that. I haven't actually read anything on that, but Eric said he read something on that, so that seems to be happening.
Okay, I really want Tom King to do Green Lantern Earth One, just because he's got a really cool take on Green Lantern, and I'd love to see him work with Kara Kyle Andrews as an artist, because both of them so love the form of the comic, I think you get something really interesting if they work together on literally anything. But yeah, that's Kara Kyle Andrews, Renato Jones. Season 1 is available in trade. That's Renato Jones, the 1%, and then season 2, Freelancer. The first issue just came out back in May, so definitely worth your time. But yeah, be forewarned. Very, very strongly politicized book. It's intended to be, but it is just one man's point of view. There is no, machine behind it. It is entirely him, which is just inherently fascinating to me.
I can't right away confirm if Earth 1 actually got canceled, so I'll look into that.
Okay.
The next thing that I want to talk about is New Superman number 11. This has made my gifts before and continues to be a really fun read, a really thought-provoking read, and it's a really good coming-of-age story. The politics are interesting because it's about a part of the world that I know nothing about. I always feel like I'm learning a lot when I read this book, and it's just a unique perspective. You don't have a lot of Chinese Americans writing comics, much less anything else, and so I'm learning a lot about China and the politics there through the superhero lens. But man, he just gets so much done in an issue. These things continue to take 15 or 20 minutes to read, and it's delightful. It's not a slog. In this particular issue, Keenan is, as he has been lately, gaining more and more of his superpowers. And this time he gets his super speed, and that happens somewhat coincidentally at the same time as we are recruiting for the Chinese Justice League, the Flash of China, and one of the only characters on their Justice League that doesn't need a hyphen in their name. So we have a female Flash, and she has been a speedster for a long time. Now she's actually not Chinese; she's American, but lives in China. And they put her on the team because she has super speed, and they fast track her. Intended. Into the team, and she doesn't have to go through all the rigmarole that everybody else does. And there's a little bit of complaint about that from some of the members of the team. But anyway, as soon as Keenan, because he's really wet behind the ears and kind of full of himself, even still, he's learned a lot, he's grown, but he's still pretty cocky. So immediately when he gets super speed, he says, "I'm the fastest person in China," and wants to race the Flash. And so a lot of this issue is just their racing and trying to decide which one of them is faster. And it's a lot of fun. And of course, that's the thing we've done a lot with Superman and the Flash. And so there's kind of some callback to that whole thing. And I really like this exchange they have when she beats him. And of course, naturally, their finish line is on the Great Wall. And she stops on the Great Wall, and or he stops, and she's got there way before he has. And he thought she was behind him and can't figure out how she got there. And she's drinking a milkshake or something, right? And Keenan gets there, and he says, "How in the world were you that much faster than me?" And she says, "Well, you have all these powers. Do you really think I would let you beat me at the one thing I can do?" I thought that was great. There's also this really cool from Keenan's mentor in this, where they're talking about the idea of selflessness and whether or not it's ever a bad idea to think of yourself. Is it selfish to ever put yourself first? And he has this argument where he says that you have to. And this is an identity book. It's all about finding yourself. It is a coming of age story. So this integrates really well with that idea. He says you have to have a self before you can be selfless. And I never heard it put just like that. I really liked that. But it's still really fun. It still makes you think. And I like to kind of think about this book a couple minutes after I read an issue.
Man, I gotta pick that up in trade because I've heard nothing but good things about that book.
I don't know how many people reading it. I haven't looked at the numbers on it. I've talked to a couple people that read it, and I know Steve likes it a lot.
Yeah. You and Steve talk about it, and just wow, that sounds really good. I gotta get on that.
Yeah, it's so much fun, and I love it when a book can be that much fun, even while dealing with heavy issues, where you can be escapist and about what's going on right now all at the same time. And that's wonderful. And that is, for a lot of things, I don't mean everything, but in a lot of ways, that's what comics are kind of all about.
Yeah, I think that's a general kind of thing that appeals to people about comics.
We move on now to the week of May the 17th, and we're already on to our third book. And Ian, what did you choose for that week, sir?
I chose Trinity. This book has had like the weirdest on again, off again creative team, and like when Manapul is both writing and drawing it, it's like really good. When he's writing it, it's okay. When other people are on it, I don't know what they're doing. But
I dropped it. I dropped it when Manapul stopped writing and drawing it, and I'm interested to hear you talk about it.
What I want people to do, what I want DC to do is go, okay, Manapul gets to do a story arc where he writes and draws, so he has a lot of time to do it. And while he's off, we have a B team that handles it. Like that's all I want. I just switch off from arc to arc and let Manapul just do the art, because I feel like when he's drawing the book, it makes his writing better, because I guess maybe he's just spending more time with it. I don't know what, but when he is drawing it, it just works a lot better.
Yeah.
And you know, I talk about how much this is written, like how good the writing is. Dude, I got like so many 2-page spreads in this book. It's ridiculous. They're like just one after the other. We get these either full panels, like just this image of the Trinity together. That's a poster.
Yeah, but are we telling enough story in it? Is my question.
You know, I think visually a lot gets done. I honestly can't answer that question, Cap, because pretty pictures. I don't care like how much story is getting done. If you keep giving me visuals like this, I'll sit here all day, because there's just really neat. There's visual storytelling, which is the important part. Like, let me find this image. Okay, so Justice League Watchtower is kind of under attack or whatever. Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman show up late. And they get attacked and like a hole's blown in it, and Batman's holding on to like a thing, whatever, as he tries not to be pulled out into space. Doesn't really matter for Wonder Woman and Superman. So Batman's yelling, hang on to something across these panels. And it's in these panels as Batman is making that yelling statement that the Flash comes in and saves him. And so we have visually that story is told, that you communicate this all happened in an instant across a 2-page spread through paneling and by introducing the Flash in those panels. That's really cool. That's a great time to introduce him. And just seeing the Flash run across the page is really great, because he just follows one eye line. He doesn't go like across this arc. He just goes straight across the page. So he even feels faster. Just to your eye, which is really, really neat. And then again, just it's beautiful. You see the Flash briefly in those panels, but then when you see the Flash, when the Flash is presented proper, it just looks so cool. And I don't know, I feel like there's a fair amount being done. I would say it's definitely, even though I feel a fair amount is being done in the story, it's definitely not efficient with its page count, because we do get a lot of like, you know, paragraphs of exposition in some of these shorter panels, but at the same time, it's so pretty. I don't care. So yeah, I'm enjoying a lot about that. And there's like some, you know, there's some big oh no moment at the end or whatever. And I'm hooked, man. When Manapul's writing and drawing it, it just works on a fundamental level. It's
See, really I didn't know cool. He came back to it. I thought he left for good. I didn't know he was coming back and forth.
No, I think that's what they're doing, is having him go back and forth on it. And please let that be the case, because this is part 1 of another story arc. So we'll see what happens. I should mention. Okay, so Manapul stopped writing and drawing he stopped drawing at issue 3. But he stopped writing at issue 6, and then they did issue 7, which was like Ra's al Ghul, Cersei, and Lex Luthor story. And then issue 8 was like that Return of Superman, whatever thing. And then issue 9 is this. So like it just completely dropped this like cliffhanger of the Lex Luthor, Cersei, Ra's al Ghul story. And then that finally got picked up again in the annual for the book. So I don't know, and that ends on a cliffhanger. So I don't know when they're going to pick that back up again, but we'll see. It's got a bit of a head scratching moment when Manapul's not writing and drawing it. So
Are they setting up something bigger with that? Does that maybe have something to do with the event? I don't even know what the event is. There's like a big event coming, and I don't even know what it is.
I'm not sure. There's something about like a Trinity of Trinities that Cersei's going on about. That stuff is like it's got levels of interest for me. It looks like they might actually make Jason a villain, which would be great. But I'm reading this book for Manipal and his art. And I think he is a much better writer when he is the artist on the book.
No, I'll come back to it for that. I didn't know he came back.
Yep. So it's always neat to see someone try to master both sides and have it actually pan out, you know?
So. Well, I guess our theme for that week was flashes in books not called The Flash. And now we move on to the fourth week for the month of May, which is May 24th. And this is another book that I have put in my gifts before. This is Daredevil number 20, and this is finally revealing. I think I talked about the first issue of this arc. So I guess I'm bookending it and doing the first issue and the last issue of this arc. This is the purple arc, and it's the revelation of how exactly Matt Murdock ended up getting everybody's memories wiped of his secret identity. And what I like about it is that it turns out, I'm going to have to give this away in order to talk about it, and I won't talk too much about how exactly it happens, but it wasn't Daredevil's idea, and I like that a lot. I like that it's not the same thing as One More Day, where like things get so weird and bad for him that he finally just throws his hands up in the air and goes to some magic person to try to fix it for him. Especially because we just had that with Logan, or with Old Man Logan, and he doesn't manage to. Well, actually, he does manage to succeed at it, but he doesn't go to anybody that you would have figured he'd go to that would actually help him in order to get him back to the wasteland. But since we just did that, I'm glad that that's not what this was. It's the Purple Man's kids deciding to help Daredevil out for helping them, and they come up with a way to wipe everybody's memories of him because they can manipulate people just like Purple Man can. So it's a Purple Man thing basically that makes it so that people don't know Daredevil's identity. And it's really tragic by the end, where we finally figure out why he's not with what's her name, McDuffie, his old girlfriend from Wade's Run, and what's going on with Foggy Nelson, and he's kind of messed up and cut ties with both of them for opposing reasons. So with her, it's because he wouldn't tell her who he was, and with Foggy, it's because he did. And Foggy was so much happier finally not having to deal with that information, and now that he has it again, he wants nothing to do with Matt Murdock. And what I don't like about it is that, or what I'm not sure about, and like I know these are recommendations, but this is a thing I'm just not sure about. I don't know how I feel about getting this information now. I don't know why we had to wait this long, because it's been a while. I mean, it's been, what, a year and a half now? Yeah. And I don't know if you're reading this book, Ian, but I don't like that. I don't think. I'm just not sure what the point of waiting on it was.
That's one of those things where, like, it would probably read better in trade, but, you know, but that's 2 years you're asking for someone who's reading it singles. And that's a hard sell.
I think even reading this in a couple sittings, though, as long form, it still would be kind of irritating, because there's not any reason that I don't think nothing's coming to me as to why this information needed to be kept from us until now. Like, Matt's not talking about it with anyone, but I don't know why this couldn't have been the first story of the run.
I don't know, guess sell you on the mystery kind of thing, that like J.J. Abrams mystery box would be my best argument, but eh.
Yeah, and the problem is it all takes place in the past. Like, the only reason we're getting it now is because he's decided to take this moment to go tell a priest about it. Like, it kind of comes out of nowhere, and part of the reason I have a reservation about that is because I think it hurt sales. I think it potentially hurt sales for the book. I think if Soule had led with it, more people might not have been turned off by the idea that, because obviously, like it ends up being a really clever way to do this, but obviously the real reason that people can't know that Matt Murdock is Daredevil is because Wade kind of wrote us into a corner, and Marvel and or Soul didn't want to have to keep dealing with that, and so it would be my guess, and so it looks like just a big, easy, contrived thing. And more to the point, a lot of people thought it was because of Secret Wars. A lot of people thought this was one of the many things that we decided to reboot Marvel so that we didn't have to deal with anymore. And as I've said 100 times, Secret Wars might as well have not happened because we pretty much just went ahead with wherever we were with everything, and it doesn't really look like a reboot. Everything seems to still count pretty much. And it would have been so easy to use Secret Wars as the excuse for this. I kind of like it, but I wish we'd led with it. Yeah. So anyway, but I liked it a lot while I was reading it.
That's good.
So, yeah. What is your pick for that week?
I keep talking about this book a lot, and it's Batman Beyond #8.
Wow, you are really all about that book.
I mean, it's weird because like I definitely have problems with it. Like I think Jurgens like really I think he thinks he's a genius at points for some of these like amazing reveals, but when we know what you're doing, I mean, it's just like he's using the page turn well in a comic, but he's building it up for way too long. Because in the last issue, we saw Ra's al Ghul speaking to his followers wearing an Anubis mask. And then we have Terry fighting Ra's al Ghul in this, and like, you know, he's still wearing the mask and everything, and Bruce Wayne's narrating over it that Terry thinks he's fighting a man even older than me, but the truth is he's not. I'll give you 3 guesses, Cap. Who's under the mask?
Sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
I'll give you 3 guesses. Who's not? Ra's al Ghul is not older than Bruce Wayne. 3 guesses. Who's under the mask?
Ra's al Ghul's not older than Bruce Wayne. So it has to be someone older than Bruce Wayne.
It's someone that's not older than Bruce Wayne.
Oh, okay. Is it Talia?
No.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
Really? You can't call this? People in the comments, write down now, because here we go. It's Damian Wayne!
Oh, okay. All right.
I mean, like, it's a cool reveal. It'll be neat to see Damian, like, dealing with Terry McGinnis and all this stuff. But at the same time, like, he built that page up. Like, that's the last page. He built that up throughout the entire issue, almost. And, like, it's just, you get there, it's the
I'm sure I would have
called it
while I was reading it. The problem is I still have this disconnect where when I think Batman Beyond, I think about it completely disconnected from the rest of DC, even though it's not, and it's in there. And so I have to, when I, like, Batman Beyond and think Damian Wayne exists. Like, there's this complete disconnect. Yeah. I can't do that.
It's that thing where it doesn't quite make sense and they don't care to explain it.
I'm not saying it's a problem. It's just when you put me on the spot like that, I would not. There's no way I would have thought of that.
Yeah, I don't know. Just like it seemed really obvious to me as I was like looking.
I'm sure
like at the end of the last issue, I was like, okay, Ra's al Ghul's under a mask, so it's obviously not really Ra's al Ghul. It's someone using the title. It's either Talia, Damian, or like Bane or someone.
It should have been Bane.
Yeah, I threw out Bane.
They should do Bane Beyond. It should be some other person.
Well, actually, that kind of comes up because we get, like, Terry's in the new suit that's like a prototype for the original Beyond suit, and we get an explanation for why Batman doesn't want anyone to ever use it, and it involves a gang called the Banes when Batman first started getting older, and there are these guys, and they even do a cool little nod to Batman Beyond continuity-wise where they're using the patches for Venom.
Cool.
And so it's older Batman trying to fight this gang of Banes, and he just knows he's not physically capable of that anymore. So he develops a suit where its intention is to finish the mission even if the man inside cannot. So he describes fighting the Banes, and like it cancels out pain, and it can hold you up on its own. So he describes fighting the Banes, and he doesn't know till he gets back to the cave and takes the suit off that he broke 2 vertebrae. And that's a really cool idea. And so Terry is just going on 11, and Bruce is going to, to the Alps, to the League of Assassins, to try to get Terry out of the suit, because he knows that Terry fighting Damian in that suit, one or both of them are going to die. And that's a really cool. That's like, I'm enjoying the book itself, but not Jurgens like, milking his page turn reveals. I was like,
and at that point, he has permission to die.
Yes, exactly. It's just like, it's a cool reveal. I am excited to see Damian dealing with Terry McGinnis because, again, whole adoptive son like thing that he had with Tim, but now it's actually Batman's son. That's a really cool idea. Like, Terry McGinnis was Batman's son before Damian even existed, but in the future. And so there's some interesting stuff there to play with. And Terry is being called imposter. Like, there's this great line where Batman, where Terry is about to say that he's going to kill Ra's al Ghul, and Damian comes back with this line. He's like, "Since when does Batman seek to kill his foes? Another indicator that you truly are not Batman." And that's just a very Damian kind of thing to say. So it'll be neat to see this kind of like, you could almost title this arc sibling rivalry, in a really, really clever way. So I'm really excited to see this keep going on. It was really bad before Old 52 or before New 52 ended. It suddenly got really enjoyable to read in Rebirth. I can't say it's good, but man, it's really enjoyable.
You like what you like, I've had that. I mean, I have dropped Detective at this point because I have too much stuff in my pulls, but I was having that with Detective where I could not make an argument for that book, but I was really enjoying it. Mm-hmm. So have we retconned, or has it ever come up, because I'm so behind on Beyond, have we retconned the whole thing about Terry McGinnis being Bruce Wayne's like biological son, like sort of a pseudo clone? Have we is that not a thing anymore?
It's not a thing in the book as of yet, as far as I can remember, but you got to remember, epilogue, the epilogue of Justice League takes place further down Terry's career, and so this could easily be set before that revelation.
Oh, good point. We wouldn't necessarily know about it.
Yeah, so there's this subtext of that, though, just as Batman Beyond fan, to see the sons of Batman fighting each other. And like, people are torn on the reveal of Terry McGinnis as Bruce Wayne's son still, and this book has had very little, if anything, to do continuity wise. They kind of pick and choose their continuity with Beyond and DC AU stuff, and then comic book stuff, which I'm fine with, because then you can't really hold it to a continuity, which just makes it better.
Absolutely, yeah. Dude, I mean, you want it to work and fit in wherever it is, but yeah, I mean, half the people who worked on Batman Beyond didn't like that idea and fought Bruce Timm tooth and nail on it. So I mean, yeah, it remains polarizing.
I still really like that reveal. I thought that was really great because it didn't matter. Was my thing that I really loved about the reveal of Epilogue. It didn't matter. It just deepened their connection. And I really, really enjoyed that.
Yeah, because you still have to consider him a real Batman, even without that.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I really like about it, is Terry was already firmly established as Batman. This just deepened his connection with Bruce, which I really liked. And why I thought that the Tim Drake as Batman Beyond, part of why that was really, really bad. Unfortunately, I know everyone wants Tim Drake to be Batman. I'm sorry, it didn't work with Batman Beyond. Try again next time. So I don't know, that book, I can't say that it's like perfect or anything. It uses the form fairly well, if maybe a little ham-fistedly, but I'm just having so much fun with it. I like things where people just get to pick and choose the continuity.
It's Jurgens. It sounds better than Superman. So it looks like our theme for this week, Ian, is comics based on Batman TV shows that go off on their own and also involve the League of Assassins. My issue for that week is, and this is a book I haven't talked about yet, is Batman 66 meets Wonder Woman 77, number 5. I'm actually not caught up on this, but I was so intrigued by this guy. I've been stacking these up. I was so intrigued by this cover and getting Nightwing in Batman 66 that I had to sit down and read this, and this reads just fine on its own. It is a cliffhanger. It is a two-parter, and it does call back to other things that have happened in this. But this is one of those crossover minis that has kind of several stories in it in a chronological order that all are linked and connected. It's almost like a trilogy of stories. So you'd almost expect this to have come out like a lot later, but they just did it all at once. I think all 6 of these are 2-part stories, but I might be wrong about that because, like I said, I haven't read all of this yet. But anyway, this one takes place in 1977. We start with the series in Batman's time. And we get to see an earlier Wonder Woman in that time. I say earlier because the first season of that show is the 40s, but you know what I mean. And then by this point, we get to see what the Batman 66 world looks like with Wonder Woman in it in the time of her show. And it's fascinating. This is so cool. We keep the flavor of the 66 show to a degree, but we allow it to go places that it never would have gone, that the 66 book never went to. This is essentially Batman 66 Dark Knight Returns.
Oh my God, yes. Yes,
and
that's
what
amazing.
it does is, so we've got a graying Bruce Wayne. He is living in a Gotham that's run now by Barbara Gordon, and so we do the Batman Beyond thing, where she's Commissioner Gordon now, and she's working with Chief O'Hara's daughter, and she has the same accent and everything, and Dick Grayson has graduated to Nightwing and is trying to keep the city safe, but it's kind of falling apart. And because Batman has quit and Nightwing has to take over on his own, it's gotten darker, it's gotten rougher. It has graduated to a more mature and gritty world. And it's because, as I've always said with 66, and of course I've written a lot about that show, it no longer has that culture of dependence on Batman, and so everything goes to hell. And yet we still have plenty of alliteration and puns and stuff. It's really fun putting all that together. And we find out that the reason Bruce stopped being Batman is because he went too far in a fight with the Joker and accidentally murdered him. So Adam West Batman murders the Joker and turns into something closer to comic book Batman, but refuses to put the costume on.
Oh, wow, that's really interesting.
And Wonder Woman goes to his Batcave to try to convince him to come back to the fold. And the thing that gets him to come back is, and this is so Adam West, it's perfect, is a mystery he cannot resist.
Oh, that's cool.
That has to do with the League of Assassins. This is brilliant. I'm so excited about it. And I really hope Batman 66 comes back as a monthly at some point. And I want that book, you know, like I want the regular ongoing, like almost not dystopian, but like more realistic, but from the Batman 66 world. You know, in 89, or before 89, when that movie was being developed, a lot of people assumed, because Dark Knight Returns was so popular, that they were going to make that into a movie, and then Adam West was
Adam West played Batman,
and be Batman, and of course that's not what happened, and that's sort of what we have here, and that's
interesting.
Anyway. I'm kind of losing my mind about how cool that is. But the Wonder Woman stuff, of course, is really fun too. Like as dark for that world as that is, you still get this page. You still get Wonder Woman. She's spinning around. She's beating up Killer Croc. She beats up Killer Croc, and then she says, "See you later, alligator," and he says, "No, I'm a crocodile," and it's great.
Oh, too much fun. Oh, man.
Yeah. This is the most fun thing I've read in a long time. What is your gift for the final week of May, the 31st? We had 5 weeks. Go ahead.
Again, I didn't have a super strong week, so I just kind of went to my staple, which is Bombshells, and I'm just sad, but like cautiously optimistic because it's ending. The Bombshells title is ending, and that almost makes me want to cry, but Bennett has talked about the story is continuing. They're getting a new title of some sort, but that's all the details I have is Bombshells is ending.
There's a segment we should add to this show occasionally, Ian. Whenever it comes up, we should add Funeral for a Comic Book.
Ooh. Oh, man.
And whenever your favorite thing ends, we'll just have a little moment of silence for it.
Well, I'm incorrigible, and they convinced me to sing "Oh Danny Boy," but they convinced me during the live show to sing "Amazing Grace," but I changed the words to all be about bombshells. So you can go watch the live show for that.
Oh, so that's happened already, because that gets played at funerals quite a bit.
Yeah. So I'm all I know detail-wise is the story is going to continue in some way, shape, or form. Bennett's going to continue writing it. It's just the main title's ending. It's weird. It seems like all DC's digital first books end after 30 issues, which is in Bombshells, it's going to end with the 100th digital issue, which is weird. That seems to be consistent across DC. But this is, again, just like kind of a cool thing. One of my consistent problems, or like not real problems, just like a bit of a head scratcher, is Raven was introduced in this, and her costume is so different in design that I had like no idea who she was when I first saw her. But also, just the way in which they shade her is completely different. Because like, what's the one consistent thing about Raven is like that palish, grayish skin, right? Well, here she's got just normal toned skin, and we get a very different origin for Raven, which is she is the daughter of, her father is still called Trigon, but he's like a mountain beast. He's like a mountain. They even name drop exactly what he's supposed to be. She did her research on this. Perchata, Perchta, some kind of mountain spirit, and her mother fell in love with it. So Raven's origin in this is literally Beauty and the Beast. But she has like the beast. Cool. Yeah, she has the beast-like nature of her father's blood within her. And that's really cool. And it's a really neat explanation to get for why she doesn't have, the traditional Raven like pale skin. And then of course, Bombshells being what it is, we get like, okay, so how are the Nazis using like super comic book elements as the Allies are using super comic book elements? So you have Captain Cold here, who is the ringleader of an occult wing of the Reich that captures mythical beasts from the countries they've invaded and makes them slaves. And guess what mythical beast from Germany is a slave to the Reich? Raven's father. Mm-hmm. That's really, really fascinating. Really, really good idea there. So yeah, there's just a lot going on with that. And then we get a continuation in the final chapter of what was going on with Supergirl and Lex Luthor on the train back to Russia. That was also interesting, but I'm still kind of scratching my head about what exactly Lex Luthor is doing. And I found out that the thing I guess I have to do to convince people to get this, because I've been telling people, read Bombshells, and I guess everyone's been like, okay, and Stargirl's in it. Apparently that's a big selling point for people. Stargirl is a major character in Bombshells, at least in the first two story arcs. So, there you go. If you're a Stargirl fan, now you have to get it.
Is she popular? Is that a thing?
I don't know. Like, I was just talking about, and this, like, it's a reference to Stargirl. And people in my comments were like, oh my God, Stargirl's in this? Now I have to get it. I'm like, I've been raving about this book for like a year or two straight, and now you just decide to get it because of Stargirl of all things? Killing me, Smalls. But yeah, just Bombshells is something I really, really love, and I'm really hoping that like when it continues, it stays just as good. I trust Bennett as a writer and everything. I just don't know what direction they're going to be taking it, and that's different at this point. So we shall see. Fingers crossed and all that jazz.
Okay, well, there is no theme whatsoever for this week. The thing that I'm picking has nothing to do at all with the thing you picked. This is a thing that I've mentioned a couple times, but I don't think it has actually made the week yet. And I also had a kind of smaller week because whenever there's a fifth week, it's usually smaller. It's lighter. But anyway, I went with Biff to the Future #5. I really enjoyed this. This is, by the way, Friedolf's, And Derek Friedolfs, who has done a lot of all ages Batman stuff, and he's the guy that was doing all the Arkham comics, based on the video games. And I've liked a lot of his work. So he comes over to this, and this is issue 5 of 6. It's almost done. This is, of course, chronicling the alternate dystopian present day in Back to the Future 2 when Biff takes over Hill Valley. And we've been doing a lot of fill-in stuff with Back to the Future comics, and sometimes it can get kind of lame. It can be stuff where you're like, well, I didn't really need that story, and it's about what I would have expected, or it's just kind of sappy, and much of the time, it's just a big collection of, like, almost memes and just callbacks to the movies, and it's like, yes, I get it. It's Back to the Future, and yes, we all have all the lines of that movie memorized. Like, move forward and tell some stories, And finally, the Back to the Future book is allowed to move forward, and they've had a couple of decent arcs. It's not great. It's okay. This is the best thing they've done so far, I think. What I didn't expect was time travel. And it might sound dumb because it's Back to the Future, but it's just what happens when Biff gets the almanac. How exactly does he manage to manipulate the town to where he gets to take it over and run the police and all of that we see in Back to the Future 2? And it's first of all, it's a really dense book, and there's a lot of detail, and Friedolfs has thought of everything. And but the big thing I wasn't expecting is we get even an explanation for what exactly Doc Brown did that gets him committed. If you remember Back to the Future 2, he's nowhere to be found except for the alternate version that winds up in that world, because they find the newspaper that says that he got committed. And it's not just because he seemed like a raving lunatic doctor. It's because, he got in the way. And just like everybody that gets in the way, Biff does something to them. And so he kills Marty McFly's father, and he commits Doc Brown. And we discover at the end of, he's introduced at the end of last issue. And this issue chronicles everything that happens to him up to his getting committed. And which I don't think is too much of a spoiler, because that's in that movie. He gets committed. Spoiler alert, Doc Brown gets committed in the alternate present in Back to the Future 2. And
thanks.
And we get to see what the time machine would have looked like if it wasn't a DeLorean. And he attempts to go back in time and stop Biff years before he ever gets the almanac, which is nice. We don't do enough of that, like going way before a thing happens. And anyway, it's just a refrigerator, and you can go back in time for a certain amount of time, and then after you've been there long enough, it just disappears you back to the present day. He sends back Principal Strickland. And Strickland is the most interesting character in this, I think, where they have like this underground like resistance to Biff, which is really fun. And it's Strickland, and it's Doc Brown, and it's some other people that you'd recognize from the movies. And we try to send Strickland back because he has this memory from the 30s. Because remember, this is initially of 1955. Now we're all the way up into the late 70s, early 80s. I think we might already be even as late as like 83 in this issue. And but he remembers being a teacher all the way back in, I think, the 30s or early 40s, and at the same school before he becomes the principal. And he remembers a time where he dealt with Biff on a playground, and if only he had, and what he really wanted to do was try to get Biff sent to a boarding school because he was just terrorizing everyone and he was awful. And if only he had sent him to that boarding school, none of this would have ever happened. So Doc Brown sends him back to that playground to try to make it to where he can send it to the boarding school, and it doesn't work out because he remembered it wrong. And a lot of what this is about is how memory is fickle, and you can't necessarily count on it. So when he gets there, he initially, and remember this is like 40, 50 years, he remembers seeing a particular movie, and it's not and he gets there, he's like, wait a minute, that's not the movie I saw. Oh no, did I remember this other thing wrong too? And it turns out that he did. And ultimately, Biff ends up winning because his memory is fickle. And I really like dealing with that in a time travel thing. But that was really cool. One thing I would have done with it though is I would have kept Strickland looking exactly the same. As goofy as that is, it was already really silly that like 30 years earlier, when he's in 1955 from 85, he still has no hair and looks exactly the same. I wanted to go back to the 30s and he still looks exactly the same.
He's just one of those guys who like aged quickly and then never stopped, like John Hurt.
Yeah,
I think John Hurt was always old. Like I think John Hurt, I had like Benjamin Button syndrome, where he was like born old.
But anyway, if you like the Back to the Future movies at all, I would recommend this, and I would recommend this even over the regular series. And it's not as much of a commitment, and it actually fills in something that is interesting to be filled in, which is exciting. So yeah. Okay, so that is it for the gifts, and now we move on to our wrapping paper. Is your favorite cover from last month?
This was an interesting one because it like took a little bit of work to figure out what it was.
Oh, I love that cover. Yeah.
Yeah, Kingpin #4. People were like, Ian, what's up with the glare on your book when I was showing it off on my show and stuff? I'm like, oh no, it's not a glare. It's like a line across the page. And it says like recording dining room, and it's a security camera footage from this restaurant that Kingpin was at the end of the last issue. And that's just really, really cool idea. And it just, something about that just looks so Wilson Fisk. Just being in a wrecked restaurant on security cam footage.
I'm sure I have, but I can't remember one instance of ever seeing that.
It's just neat. And like,
yeah,
I like the way that the line goes, the crack on the security camera goes over the title, over the screen, just all the way across the page. Nothing overlaps it except for the Running with the Devil banner. And honestly, I kind of just want to erase that.
Can we please get rid of that? It doesn't mean anything. It's still on the Daredevil books. None of them have anything to do with each other.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like, it's weird because in Secret Empire, Kingpin shows up for an issue, but yet this book, and from what I can tell, everything else is still going on. Like, that's not even happening. Even though New York is supposed to be like shrouded in the dark dimension right now. So whatever.
I think time has passed in that book though. I think we're still in present day and we've moved forward in that, and there will probably be a reset button at the end. I don't know that for sure, but I think we have to have a wait and see attitude with Secret Empire and why we're not seeing more of that, because the only books that are dealing with, or that I've seen anyway, that are actually dealing with what's really happening in Secret Empire are cosmic books where they're outside the dome.
Gotcha. Yeah, so far it's just funny that like, it's weird because Kingpin and Daredevil seem to just keep going on with their thing, yet Kingpin and Daredevil have been shown to be in the dark dimension in the Secret Empire stuff. So it's like this weird disconnect. But yeah, like I thought this was a really cool cover. I like how just menacing he looks, just looking up at the camera, the shading, the blood splatter everywhere, just everything about it looks completely destroyed. And he's really menacing, but he's just got a cup of coffee. That's
wonderfully,
really cool.
Yeah, that's wonderfully relevant to that issue, which I really liked and almost put it on my list this time. Where he's still, he's trying to look like he's gone straight. He's really public, and he can't do anything without people seeing it. And so in that issue, he kills some people in self-defense, but like really brutally. And I just love that being in security footage, because people are going to see him still being the Kingpin.
Yeah, and I'm gonna spoil for you guys. I'm gonna have a hard time not picking the teased cover for next week's cover page, because oh my god, that looks cool. The Life and Crimes of Wilson Fisk.
Don't you wish they'd hire somebody to write that, put it out?
Yeah, I'd read that. Totally.
With that cover, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, totally. How about you, Cap? What's your cover?
I went with Batman in the Shadow #2. I didn't put this on my list this time because I did it last time, but it's still wonderful. But this is a real, Golden Age callback kind of cover, and you've got the Shadow with the bat signal, which is the obvious thing to do, but just glorious. I love it.
Yeah, it looks really cool. I love the red, the way that pops off the page, and how that's influencing the bat signal too. I did a live stream 3D modeling the bat signal, and so I have a lot a lot of thoughts right now about how the bat signal works.
We go on now to our gift return. What is your least favorite issue from last month? Almost to the point that you would love to take it back and get your money back. Go ahead.
Well, speaking of Secret Empire, Captain America, Steve Rogers, number 17. If you look very closely at my copy, you'll see a line running down the side of the cover here. And the reason for that is I got so frustrated at one point talking about this book that I decided the best way to move on to the next thing was to just literally throw it behind me and let it fall where it may. And I don't do that typically with comics unless I'm aggravated. So I've talked about this a bit, and like there's some really interesting ideas here, but I just don't trust Nick Spencer, and I feel like he is not realizing what he is writing at certain points, because there's this whole interview with the reporter about all these awful things that Steve Rogers has been doing as the Hydra Supreme or whatever. And the reporter is being like dragged away at the very end, screaming because he's decided that he didn't like the direction of the interview and he's going to arrest her. And she's like, you can't do this. You can't just arrest a journalist for asking a question. People will find out about this. And Steve Rogers' response is, I'm sure you're right, Miss Floyd. I imagine people on Twitter will be furious. And like, that's a really strong point. That's like a really barbed thing that has a lot of layers to it when you just accept the, again, politics in this book are pretty apparent. When you accept the, not one-to-one, but very heavy political allegory of the book right now as Nick Spencer's writing it. So that would appear to be kind of a point of complaining or vocalizing your dissatisfaction with your leadership isn't effective. Like that seems to be the point that is trying to be made here. But at the same time, I know Nick Spencer's politics from just him talking about them. And so I don't know if he understands that that's the point he just made, because his politics do not justify the other conclusion. And then like there's a lot of stuff in this that like are very clear parallels. Like the reporter uses the term "since your takeover," and Steve Rogers goes in and goes, I didn't take over. I was legally handed power, but they didn't know you were Hydra when they legally handed you power. And he goes, well, that's a problem with the previous government then. And I'm like, it's a pretty apparent parallel to the idea of a system that didn't listen to the people. There's like a lot of these things that are just like very, very apparent, very obvious parallels. And so he's making all these parallels, but I don't know if he understands the points he's making at times. And so it's just a very frustrating book to read from time to time. And then there's just some of the stuff that's like really hard to look at and really hard to imagine Captain America can at any point get past, because, hey, Cap, in human concentration camp where they're performing illegal experiments, genetic experiments on the Inhumans against their will, Captain America destroyed Las Vegas, just leveled the entire city. I'm, mind control, reality bending, whatever. It's going to be a hard thing to look past that at any point in the future for me. That they allowed the character to do this. That's some really sickening things to have the character do. So I'm having a real hard time reading this book, and like I keep giving Nick Spencer the rope, and I'm really hoping he doesn't hang me with it. But this is kind of the example where I get really, really frustrated with this book.
Yeah, I just, I wonder if you would feel the same way about it if you didn't listen to him talk.
I do too. Like initially when I was first reading just his book, I didn't even realize that he had a Twitter. I was really into it, and then I've just like heard him talk, and I'm like, what are you saying? Because it doesn't make any sense with what you are writing. And certainly you can divide the art from the person, and maybe he's just better at crafting political solutions when he's on the page as opposed to just voicing his own opinions. But it still leads to some really weird questions, and it's just like it's this really lopsided social commentary that like I'm not sure if he understands the implications of what he's writing, and that's the weird part for me. Like, it seems like you would have to understand the implications to write this, but then he just has
like that would be the point.
Yeah, then he just has things thrown out there that I'm like, I know for a fact the implication of that line disagrees with your own views. So what are you trying to say? What is your, like, again, this whole book, this whole run, for me at least, for other people it's completely unsalvageable, and I understand that. This whole run for me at least depends on the ending. And like, someone did it to me and I yelled and screamed because I didn't want to do it. But someone goes, okay, Ian, how can this book end in a way that will be satisfying? And I had to sit there and like write it out to try to figure out a way that would be even remotely working. And honestly, the more I've thought about that, I don't know any other way that it can end that I will be okay with. So
yeah, the big thing for me, and I don't want to get circular and have all the same discussion we did last time, but what I'm not sure about is how you could, because I don't think he's Captain America. I think the whole point is that your upbringing matters and everyone has darkness, potential darkness in them, et cetera, et cetera. So what you're looking at is not actually Steve Rogers, because if Steve Rogers was raised entirely differently, he might not be Steve Rogers. It's just like if you took Clark Kent and you gave him different parents. The problem is if you just hit a reset button at the end, if you just have it to where he's not raised by Hydra, how do you not wipe away all this stuff from like regular books, like not just Secret Empire, but everything? There's no way this ends without people remembering it, right? I would think. But then at the same time, we also killed everyone and only had a few people remember what happened with Secret Wars, but that was kind of different. We knew we were in a completely alternate status quo then. We've got all the other Marvel books going on. We canceled all the books when we did that.
And like,
so that's where I agree with you. Is I don't really see how we move past it without a lot of these books not mattering.
Yeah, and
at all. That's my concern. It's less you shouldn't have gotten Captain America to that place, because I think we're exploring a different character and we have to give him back his Captain American-ness. I don't have a problem with that, but I don't really understand how we get back from it and not have a lot of wasted money. That's my thing.
Yeah. And like, it appears in Secret Empire #3, like Secret Empire #2 ended in a way that made me go, oh my God, if it was just a clone or something the whole time, I will rip every copy of Nick Spencer's Captain America run in half on camera. But looking at the way Secret Empire #3 opened up, and this came out the last week of the month, there's some very strong implications in the way that this.
I haven't read that yet, so don't spoil too much.
There's some very strong implications in the way the coloring parallels scenes colored in the Steve Rogers Captain America book. Let me put it that way. So again, that's one of the things I find so frustrating about this book is I do not trust him on the implications, but structurally, formatively, there's a lot of things being done here that I really like.
Yeah. Well, I said I haven't read that yet. I read about half of it, and then we had to start the show, and I had to rush out and get books today, so I'm not quite finished with this last week. But you know what I'm trying to decide if I'm trying to reconcile. I'm not sure about Sorrentino on that book.
Sorrentino, the artist?
Yeah.
You know, like, it's just one of those artists where I can take it or leave it. It's not like
it looks good, but that's not my point. I associate that art style with very specific characters now because he only has one style. So for a long time, I associated it with Green Arrow, and now over at Marvel, I associate it with Old Man Logan, and it makes sense to get him in what is essentially a dystopian present or dystopian future, because it's kind of a cool idea to like parallel that with the Wasteland. But at the same time, it's like I have a very specific association with that. So I'm not sure if that's the reason they got him, but each issue of that has looked entirely different. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I'm liking the coloring more than I am the art itself. It's got that like really, really stylized Photoshop coloring that I quite like.
Yeah, and I've never seen him colored like that either. And I think that's an attempt at making it look not too much like Old Man Logan.
Yeah.
But I would think that's why I can't reconcile it, or I'm not sure, because I feel like the reason you get him right then is because you would be. I thought the idea was maybe Captain America gets us too close to the Wasteland. That's that's what that's. But then if we're coloring it differently so that it doesn't look too much like Old Man Logan, I don't know why you got Sorrentino.
Yeah.
So.
And
anyway.
again, it's just like, it's really hard. Just, it's kind of an awful example, and I'll understand if you want to edit this out, but this is kind of my go-to. It's like, it's really just hard to read a character that you like doing the stuff that Spencer's having him do right now, mind control or whatever.
No, I don't have a problem with that.
No, I'm like, my example that I'm going to go to, like, the thing I keep saying is, it may be an effectively told story, but I don't care how effectively you tell a story about Superman raping someone. I don't want to read that. And that's how I'm kind of feeling seeing Captain America open concentration camps. That's like really, it's kind of sickening. And sure, it's intended to be, but I don't know if it's going to be worth it in the end, is the more frustrating part.
Yeah, but I think that's just a taste issue. Like, I think maybe it's just not for you at that point.
Maybe, but I mean, at this point, I'm committed, or I should be.
No, and that's fair. It's obviously a horrible idea if you kept going forward with it, and I made this argument last time, but so we are just having the same conversation. But maybe you're fine. But I don't think you'd mind it if it was just a what if story.
Yeah, and see, it's interesting because that's what I say to people who don't like Flashpoint. People like have a lot of problems with Flashpoint and go, the reason I like some of the stuff in Flashpoint is because I just look at it as what ifs.
Yeah, and a lot of people that had issues with that didn't want things to change, and that's your thing.
See, I'm not like opposed to changing and involving the character. I'm opposed to doing so in such a sickening way.
Yeah, but it's not going to actually change it in the long run, and you know that.
On one level, I do, but this will be a stain on Captain America's history, won't it?
Like you say, not necessarily. Because again.
This feels like
unless you think it's just too cynical to say if you went and got somebody early enough and raised them wrong, anyone could turn into that. And I don't personally think that's necessarily too cynical, because the other way means everything is fate, and I just don't buy that. Okay. And so at this point, it just turns into personal philosophy.
Well, for me, the thing is, like, this is going to kind of go down, no matter if it's good or bad ending, this will kind of go down in history as, like, that one time Captain America did something really disgusting. Like, it'll be Lois Lane turns black for a day. That's kind of like the history it'll have for the comic. And that's going to be weird.
Unless people understand, and again, it's hard to have this conversation until it's over, but unless people understand that we just totally changed that character so we could tell this story, and then we change him back. Like, that's not Steve Rogers.
Yeah, but like, it doesn't help that Nick Spencer's been the one on Twitter saying, no, it is Steve Rogers. It's not a clone. Like, from the very beginning.
Yeah, I don't care what you're saying. That's why I don't read what writers are saying while they're writing a book. I don't care. Like, I want to just look at the piece. But anyway, let's go ahead and move on, shall we?
Sorry.
No, you're fine. No, and don't think I'm irritated about the argument, because I love these kinds of arguments, but we should probably finish the show. So anyway, Ian, this pains me, buddy. It pains me to put in the gift return section a cover with Lord Zedd's head on it. Because Lord Zedd's my favorite thing. But Justice League Power Rangers #4.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this has not been great, and it's sad because it's Tom Taylor, and it's funny because this is the one like kind of segue we could make from what you were talking about to this, because Tom Taylor also changed a really altruistic character called Superman in Injustice, where he murders his own wife on accident and then kills the Joker, and that's a thing that a lot of people never wanted to see Superman do. I like some of the stuff that he's done with Injustice. This is just boring, and it's like really typical for a crossover, and I don't think he's making a good case for these teams being interesting to watch together. There's this really goofy scene, and it's Power Rangers, so goofy should be okay, but it's not goofy in a cool way, I don't think. There's this weird bit where the Power Rangers are cut off from their powers from their dimension, and they can't morph. So they're in the Javelin with the Justice League, and they need costumes. And they put on, and like, there's this really contrived thing to get a bunch of different costumes on the Javelin that aren't even Justice League costumes, where I guess they just have some supervillain suits and things lying around from fights they've had with people, right? And the costumes that they get I almost said the Super Friends that they get the Power Rangers in are really arbitrary and seem to just be there for like each individual case for either color or weapon or something. Like they don't naturally really fit together, and we forced this really hard, and we just shouldn't have done it at all, I don't think. So you've got Tommy in a Lex Luthor suit because he's green.
Oh. And
bad
then guy.
yeah, right, except not anymore. Okay, and then you have Jason in a knight suit, like Knight and Squire.
What? Why do they even have that?
I don't know.
Like on some level, Lex Luthor, okay, they had counter him off enough. Why is Knight's costume just on the thing?
I don't know. And guess what and guess what his sword is? He got Azrael's sword.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Not.
Yeah, sure. And then Kimberly picked up, and this is what's weird. They've got people just picking up different things, and then they're wearing costumes that are different from the things they picked up. So that was just confusing from panel to panel. But like at first, it looked like Kimberly was going to do something with Green Arrow because she shoots a bow and arrow. But then she's just wearing a hot girl suit because it's a girl, I guess, and it flies and has wings like a pterodactyl, And then there's a Jason Todd suit, and yeah. Anyway, it's really strange. There's a katana suit. I guess. I guess
it's so impractical. Like, how big is this jet? Like, do they have like their own cargo hold on the thing?
Yeah. Did it all come from the jet, or did they go somewhere else first and then get in the jet? I think it's in the jet.
It feels like if they're going to go somewhere, they should go to Justice League headquarters, where that at least it would make sense to have all that, right? Oh, that's so strange.
And one thing that I thought was kind of awkward, and this is a thing where this is just because I've read something else that he's written, but he does the exact same boxing arrow joke or boxing glove arrow joke that he did in Injustice. And I was like, oh, I mean, like somebody might read that and think that's cool, but how come every time we want to make fun of Green Arrow, we have to always go to boxing glove arrow? Like it's the first time anyone's ever made fun of that. But yeah. Like I said, the main thing is just that it's kind of dull, and I don't care for some of the art. I don't know what we're doing with Superman's face. He looks like sometimes you look at him and you think it's Jason Superman suit because he's so young. He looks like he's Jason the Power Ranger, not like my son Jason, but he's like, yeah, he looks like he's 19 and he's constantly got like stubble. And I don't
like Superman. I don't like Superman with a beard. No beard. Superman should always been clean shaven.
He's just got this Superman like 5 o'clock shadow, and it's okay if he's been stranded on a planet for a few weeks.
That's the exception. That's the exception that proves the rule.
So here's the crazy thing about this. For whatever reason, and I think this has been selling okay. For whatever reason, DC has pulled solicitations, and there's no sign that this will finish. It's 4 issues in. There's only 2 more issues. They may not put out the last 2. They pulled solicitations and in a indefinite kind of manner, and I don't care. That's what's really sad. Is like I don't even really care if it finishes.
You know what book I'm still waiting on?
The only reason I want to see it done is because A, I bought the first 4, and B, my kid likes Power Rangers. That's it. We had planned on taking Jason's Imaginext toys because he's got the Batman and the Power Rangers, and it's the same. It's the same company, and they're to scale. And we were gonna do like an action figure adaptation of this when it finished. It's too boring. I don't want to now. So much fun, but I don't like the book.
Well, make your better version then.
Okay, all right, I'll work on that. I'll see if I can
make your action figure stage play fan fiction film.
Or you know what we could do? If they don't finish it, we could make the last 2 issues
and turn it all around.
And then you see Jason. You remember that one time when I put on a night mask? I don't know what that was about. I don't know why I did that.
Yeah, Cap, I believe you. I believe in your strength as a writer. You can turn it all around and get me invested in action figures. If anyone can do it, it's you. And Rasco and I can review it on Fan Film Reviews.
Hey, thanks, buddy. No, I still want to do something with that because we have so many Imaginext toys, and I've been checking them off. I'm like, yep, we have a Javelin. We can get that in there. And we got the Command Center. We can get that in there.
Yeah,
and
make your own version from the beginning and just make it work better. There you go.
Yeah. Anyway. So that's my pick. Oh, I want to cry because this is a cool cover, and I want to cry that it's Lord Zed. Although Eric pointed this out, he was like, "No, it's not a cool cover." You know what the problem is? Eric said, "I hate it." This is Eric talking. This is my Eric impression. I hate it when you take two characters and you do like the split down the middle thing, but their chins don't line up. Isn't that annoying?
Yeah. It's one of those things. It's like it's a little played out if you're not going to do it right. If you're not going to do it right, don't do it at all. It's a little played out, or at least like separate them a bit. Like the cover for one of the covers for Green Lantern Star Trek did that, but they like separated them out a bit so it just looked better because they didn't want to try to morph the faces to have them be identical, so they just gave them a little separation with like light energy or whatever.
Ian, we forgot to do it last month, but we should do the PS de Resistance. What was your favorite book of the best books you reviewed?
It's easily Renato Jones. Again, this book is it's such a strong statement for comic books as an art form. Putting the politics aside, even though they're very integral to the book itself, just it's such a strong statement for comic books as an art form that it's really refreshing to get that because, again, there's so much underconfidence in comics as their own art form that it's really nice. And again, it's really neat to see someone go, this is mine and no one else's, and just have that much power behind a book. So yeah, I highly recommend Renato Jones to people. It's been a really, really interesting book, and it's really high selling. And again, it's a guy who can do what McFarlane wishes he could, which is write, draw, and own the book.
Well, it will come to no surprise, but the best thing I read last month was absolutely this, and Batman 66-101-77. I really want this to turn into a book called Nunna Wonder Woman. This needs to be a book. Like,
can I tell you a story?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. And then we'll have cupcakes.
Yeah. When I was in high school, my friend dated this girl, and one day she texts me because they're trying to think of a song, and she's like, "Ian, what's the name of that one song?" And I go, "Oh, that helps, Mandy. Help me out a little bit more." And she texts me. It goes da 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 da. Like she texted me that like if she were singing it out. I'm like, how am I supposed to read that? It was a good thing she was pretty.
Did you send her a message back and say, "It's Batman"? Obviously.
I don't know. It was so weird. Like I don't know what she was thinking.
The answer was Batman.
She had a lot of moments like that. I got a lot of stories about my bud David's ex, Mandy. She was a special one.
She has her own song that too many people do at karaoke that Angel sings very poorly. Anyway, all right, let's move on now finally to our final segment, which is us eating cake. And Ian, did you get a different cupcake?
Yes, I did. Yes,
cool.
I did.
What'd you get? Let's see it.
It's like this strawberry-filled vanilla cupcake. With like strawberry, like I love the way the red frosting.
Sometimes they're so pretty. It's hard to bring yourself to eat them. It's just like
no, that's a you problem, friend. That's a you problem. I have no problem eating them.
Okay, well, I guess in this day and age, it's really easy to just take a picture. Those are the kinds of things, you know how people like get annoyed when somebody takes a picture of their food and posts it? Those are the kinds of things you can get away with that. It's like, look how beautiful this cupcake is.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the red swirl is gorgeous and just like, it looks so juicy and yummy, and it's got like strawberry filling in it. I'm so excited to eat this.
You and I have been picking a lot of parallels this week for things. I got a cupcake from a different place today that I've been before, but that I haven't shown on the show. There's a place called Gigi's Cupcakes. Gigi's Cupcakes, and I got a strawberry shortcake cupcake.
That looks good.
are both eating strawberry cupcakes this time. Yours looks like a work of art, though. Like, this looks very tasty. That thing looks like it should hang from the wall or something. Like, that is a gorgeous cupcake.
Oh, man.
So now you and I are gonna have a little bit of our cupcakes, and we'll tell you we'll do a little mini snackvolution, tell you how these are.
Oh, that's a good idea. I like that.
Yeah, let's see it. It's very strawberry.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, indeed.
Oh, it's very creamy. It's good.
So you said yours is, that looks real creamy. Now, you said yours is vanilla. Mine is strawberry through and through.
Nice, nice. I like the contrast in flavors. I don't like too much of just one thing, unless it's chocolate. I love chocolate.
I agree with you. I actually think this might have been better served as a vanilla cupcake, but it's very, very good.
Mm-hmm. It's like strawberry jelly filling. That's good.
Oh. So yeah, there's our plug for cupcakes. Thanks a lot for watching, folks. We sure appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the show. We certainly did. And I want to, before we go, tell Ian congratulations on his impending nuptials.
I might even be married by the time this episode's posted.
That's right. You'll certainly be married by the time we do the next one.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for watching, folks. We sure appreciate it, and we will see you again next month with another one. I was Captain Logan.
And I was Sidbar too. That was a very good cupcake.
Mine is very good as well. I haven't finished it because I needed to, speak and things. But anyway, well, thanks again, folks. We sure appreciate it. We'll see you next time.
Oh, man. Good time.